Hi, everyone. This is Rae Luskin of the Creative Activist Turning Pain to Purpose. And today, as you always know, I have a poem to start off the day for my guest, Jennifer Young. So she didn't begin with answers. She began with color, with hands that knew how to listen and a heart that understood. That healing doesn't always need words. She learned that art can be a doorway into safety, into expression, into remembering who you are beneath the hurt. She creates spaces where people come as they are, where perfection is unnecessary, and where connection happens one brushstroke at a time. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And let me introduce my guest, Jennifer Young. She is the founder of Art Connections LLC, a community based creative space rooted in healing, expression, and connection. She's doing amazing work in the world of trauma and restoration. She partners with several organizations, Care House of Oakland County, LACASA of Livingston County, and she's administrator of healing from sexual abuse community. And I have to say, I'm so excited to have you here, Jen, because we've known each other for quite a few years now. Oh, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I know I was so excited. You were someone that I, look to for just how do you creatively live your life and process, the things that come up. And so you've been a mentor and a guide for me, and I appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. Why don't we just sort of dive in? Can you share a little bit about your own life experience and how it shaped the work you do today?
Yeah. I'll say that, I was sexually abused when I was younger by a few different people in my life. And then I experienced domestic violence when I was a teenager. And, what I really come to find out is that perfectionism was a big impact of that for me. I didn't look like the typical kid who, might have needed support. I did everything right. Listened to my teachers. My behavior was so good. And mistakes was something that was so hard for me. I would really spiral into, low self-worth and blame and all the things. And so, yeah, that perfectionism was a big deal for me.
I understand. I always wanted to be perfect at everything. I still
Yeah.
struggle with that a little bit myself right now.
Yeah.
Even though I know it's not real, but there is that level, especially if you want to act normal like everybody else, and even though you're hiding all these stories and pain, you hold it together at least in front of your friends, and
Yeah.
it's cool. So it is a challenge. So let's talk a little bit about connection through creativity and what first drew you to art as a form of healing.
Yeah, well, I'll say at first, I did not like art. For many years of my life, I couldn't do it right. I tried to take all those paint night classes, and they just felt yucky to me. Although, I'll say I've been a creative person. And as I was going along in my healing journey, I kind of got there in my 40s. I got to a place where I really needed to set some boundaries with some like biological family members and, and have some conversations that were really tough. And it was kind of through that whole process that I found art. So I found art as a way of healing. There was actually like a kind of a pivotal moment that I would say really kind of got me there. As I said, I'd had those conversations, and I had a family member, my father, he took a book that I had given him, and he had pulled out all the pages and shredded them and put the cover in and put it in an envelope. And he wrote all these notes in there of like, this is what you've done to the family, upon having those conversations. And when I received that in the mail, and saw what it was, immediately I just had this like little, I don't know, just an intuitive voice that said, do something with that shredded paper. And so I did. I I started to Google, what do you do with shredded paper? And I started,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, what's that? Your
Oh,
voice
I
went.
just said Google is great for things like
Yeah,
that, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I started to, color on it and paste it and collage it. And I was like, okay, like that feels good. And I had this experience with paper. You could make paper clay out of shredded paper, where you can actually like squeeze the paper and, make this kind of clay. And at the same time, I was like, I think I kind of crossed paths with you at that time and had really seen how you don't have to make perfect art. You can actually use art for like healing and for expressing and moving through really difficult situations, and so I continued to do that with the art materials, and there was a lot of healing that came from that. I was able to kind of put the anger, where it belongs, and the blame, and feel the feels and just come to a place of peace with by doing art.
Oh,
So,
that's so beautiful. And so how did that translate into your work?
yeah, so with those difficult conversations in my family, a lot of my family members, they kind of heard things were going on, but nobody wanted to talk about it. I stopped getting invited to, the family parties and the family things. And people in my family said things like, leave the past in the past. That's just the way so and so is. If you weren't so fill in the blank,
Right.
this
Just
wouldn't be
get over
happening.
it, right? It happens.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got that
yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people left my life, and I was feeling very lonely, in some respects. And I kind of just had a day, or just over time, I was like, you know what? I'm going to build like my own family. I'm going to find my family of choice. And by this time, I had been doing art in this mindful way and expression. And I thought, and I'm a teacher, I'm a natural teacher. I was in early childhood for years and just different leadership roles. And I said, well, I'm just going to create a class called Creative Self-Care. And I invited my friends and women and men from my community, and we came together, and it was a regular time. We met every week and just to come create, like a kind of a just create kind of thing. And so in many ways, I really just built my own community. It was for my own healing. And it, kind of rippled out from there.
That's just beautiful. You
Yeah.
know, I guess, one of the conversation I always, it's important to me to make people feel safe,
Mm.
seen, heard, understood. And now that you've been doing it, how does that feel for you? And how does that affect you while you're doing that and creating
Mm.
that space?
Oh yeah, I would say it's really empowering, and I find that people are really looking for that. I feel like there's people, and yeah, everybody has somebody in their life where they're like, "Oh, that doesn't feel good," or but to find a place where you belong, where you can be who you want to be, show up as you are and create art. And it can be messy. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. We celebrate it all. And it's just kind of reinforces that feeling of belonging and love. So, and I knew that I wanted that in my community for sure.
Oh, I love that. That is wonderful because when people give themselves permission to create without judgment and
Yeah.
somebody's there to say that, it's
Yes.
like, oh, you can breathe a sigh of relief. That's one of
Yeah.
those things because we are so hard on ourselves. We're always judging ourselves. So if somebody can say, hey, it doesn't matter, join us, be here, just be present. I think that makes a huge difference in every life that you touch that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I would say, what a beautiful way to be seen and heard, too. I've found, just be like, oh, wow, tell me about that. Or, I love the way you did that. And people get into explaining, and life stories come in, and it's just a good way to honor each other and witness. So,
I love that because to me, it's like, tell me more. that became a big question. It was like, I'd ask originally, but then it's like, well, tell me more, and it's like, yeah, it's really important. So I'm just going to ask you, you said you wanted to build your own family. Have you felt like you've done that through this work?
Oh yeah, a million times. Yeah, definitely. I have widened my circle. I feel like I've really been a positive, advocate in my community. And I'll say I've expanded to teenagers, into children, and now I have a tween class. And each group, it feels so good to be able to model all those things of like, just come make a scribble. It's okay. We don't have to be at this standard of fine art. We can come and just enjoy each other, and just that love and acceptance of each other. I have guidelines for each group. And we always, talk about like the language we can use with each other and how to encourage each other.
Oh,
So,
I love that. Especially so in the world of preteens and teens, how does
yeah.
that change? As you're speaking to adults and then you're working with people who are still the brains aren't totally formed. What does that look like
Yeah.
for you and feel like?
Yeah, I think that it means a lot when an adult is interested in your life. So I sit down with them, I create next to them. I ask, oh, what'd you do this weekend? They're in this play or this sport or, and I'm generally like interested in them and just encourage them all the time. I tell my teenagers especially like, you guys are the hope. You are the future. Like you are powerful people, so just try to tell everybody they're world changers and the pieces that you bring to the world are important. Like you matter. So,
I think that's a lesson that they need on a personal level because they spend
yeah.
so much time on, the phone, on the internet,
Oh,
that
yeah.
having that one-to-one contact with somebody who becomes a trusted adult can
Yeah.
make such a difference in their lives. I used to have an art school called Art Connections a million years ago, and
Mhm.
yeah, and I'm still best friends with the other person. She taught Mon art, and to this day, because she had a lot longer working with some of these kids, 20 years, from
Mhm.
toddler through college kind of thing. And they come back and they thank her, because there is not enough people in this world who are really interested in who you are. And I think art opens everybody up, and
Yes.
gives them
Yeah.
opportunities to shine. And to have a person who says, hey, I'm here for you. Let's talk, and is honest about what's going on in their lives as well because they have
Yeah.
different challenges that we may not as adults feel, and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so valuable. And I love anybody who's willing to take the time to invest in the kids as well as the adults. So bravo to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I'll say even through this work, hearing the different conversations, I really realized that, especially, in our teens are kind of on my mind right now, like we need support learning how to build healthy relationships, and how to be safe and, having these conversations that we need to have, so I found that important throughout my groups.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit to your partnerships and organizations with Care House and LACASA. What does that mean? And how has that work changed you, changed your thoughts on healing and, advocacy in the world?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yes, part of that wanting that support and connection for my community, I reached out to some child advocacy centers in my area, and Care House of Oakland County was one of the first ones I began working with, and they hold things like body safety for kids, young kids, all the way, on up, and
Can you
for
explain
parents.
what body safety is for those who would not know? Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like body autonomy, like you get to choose who you hug. Your body is yours. You give permission, those kinds of things. Even as early as, reducing the shame in our language, like, call the body parts what they are, and it's, how to open that door from a very young age. about talking about your body. Like all things, those things are really important. And for them to know too that if somebody touches their body in a way that feels uncomfortable, kind of teaching them what that might feel like in your body, the body mindfulness. But most importantly, that it's not your fault, and to make sure you tell in a trusted adult, tell several trusted adults, until you can get the support you need. So.
Have you had people come out, kids come out to you at all? Just as
Yeah, we've had things in our community where there was a local teacher who has now been convicted of sexual abuse. And, I think it's really important. I've seen it's really important to empower the children in my community to speak up and tell adults. Sometimes they tell a friend first, we found, and, then that kind of can get to adults. But definitely just, I feel like it's so important to even just, say the word sexual abuse because people are afraid of it, but the reality is it happens, and it doesn't just happen far, far away. It happens close, with people that your child likely knows. So it's important to bring this conversation.
I love the fact that you said it so matter of factly that, we need to be able to say the word sexual
Yeah,
abuse. That
yeah,
it's true. Adults still have problems saying that.
yeah, yeah,
We don't want to discuss that. Nope, nope,
yeah,
bad idea. But
yeah,
it's so relevant and prevalent that we need to have these conversations. And in
yeah.
many ways, whether it's through art, and having them have dialogue with their body. That was one of those things I used to do, with some of my students. Let's have, draw a
Mm,
gingerbread man, and where does it pain? Where does it hurt? What are you thinking, feeling? And trying to dive into body shame, whatever it
mm,
is, and so many people are struggling with that on another level, not from abuse, but, body shame in general for the type of body they have. They're too big, they're too heavy, they're this, they're too skinny, whatever we have as a society have put out there, these kids are struggling with it. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say, yeah, like even myself bringing the conversation up, like for a long time, I held a lot of shame. Like I thought, oh, it was something I did or something, you know, whatever about my own body, that I felt afraid to say, I was hurt and I was abused as well. And so, holding these different classes, like the body safety, I've been able to like stand up and just say, you know what? I was harmed. I thought it was my fault, and I want you to know, that it's not your fault, and it's okay to, we'll be okay, So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're talking about this and you're in a space of always supporting others, how do you hold space for yourself and care for yourself when you're
Oh,
doing all this work in the world?
yeah, that's such a good question. I would say I have my own communities of support, like, different kinds of creative spaces, where other survivors of abuse meet. One is the Healing from Sexual Abuse Beyond Surviving Facebook page, and another is a group. And, I have these spaces where we already have a shared understanding. And I can just spew whatever I need to. I can say, I'm really worried about this or this happened, so I mean, we need each other in this process. This isn't something, that's meant to do alone. And so I found a lot of healing by reaching out to my community and continuing to just use art as a way to, brush off the dust, I'll just say.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah, and I found like this really fun creative expression that I do too. It's called a static dance. And so every week I go and I just shake it out, just move how you want to move. It's, yeah, art form with your body.
Oh,
So,
I know. Trance dance is the term I use, a
oh
different
yeah,
group, but the same thing. It's
yeah,
like, just gotta move. And before
yeah,
I always get on a call, I always have the music on and I'm dancing because it changes your whole energy, and they've done studies that you learn better when you dance,
oh yeah,
yeah, there's New England Journal of Medicine did some study about the power of dance and you're able to learn more. So
yeah,
I know I do a lot of dancing as well, so it's more than just drawing and painting. And that's what people
Yeah.
need to know, whether it's music or, turn it up loud, sing, whatever it is, we all do that. And
Yeah.
we need more opportunities to do that. So I love that you're
Yeah.
sharing that. That's wonderful. So tell me
Yeah.
more. Is there anything else that we should know that you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I think like I definitely have a lot of really good self-care routines in place. I'm a routine kind of girl. I like lists, I like things. And so thankfully with, the way that most in my business, my classes that I hold are in the afternoon or evening. And so I have a good chunk of the day in the morning to really take care of myself. And so that might look like, I get up and I do my stretching and moving, I dance at home, and then I pick a self-care thing to do. Like I might do a little art, or I'm also a writer. I love to journal and just, get it out. That's a big piece for me.
Love
And
my
then I would,
morning pages. I do. And I do
yeah,
bilateral art often when I'm doing it. So I'll
yeah.
just sit there and draw with both hands, and then whatever comes up,
Oh,
and then I
yeah.
create a conversation around whatever that image is. So
Oh, yeah.
I like that. For me, nature is it. That's my happy place. So I need
Yeah.
to be outside, no matter how cold it's been,
Yeah.
folks. 4 degrees, 8 degrees. I'm out there,
Yes.
taking a few photographs because that's my happy space. And that's what is
Yes.
healing to me for any challenge that's going on in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, nature is a big deal. Which has been more challenging than it's so cold. But yeah, I actually just did a mindfulness practice last week where I just found a plant in my living room and I just spent, just a few minutes looking at it, look at the shape of the leaves, touching it, smelling it, and just really simple things that maybe take 10, 15 minutes. And afterwards it's just I can feel my nervous system just relax. So yeah, that's a big piece for me too.
Yeah. And I've studied Donna Eden's work with energy medicine over the years, and I sort of put it aside and then I just started using it again. It's like, oh, 10 minutes of that, just that practice, it changed everything, whether, it's this, where you're going up like this and you're reaching and, doing those and bring it back. And then there was a simple one that I saw in one of her tapes, and I had not heard this one. So much of our work around the vagus nerve, calming the
Mm,
vagus nerve, which is flight and fright and, freeze. So one of them was just cup your face,
mm,
hold it like that,
mm.
then put your hands in front of your mouth and breathe 3 times. Once through your nose, out through your mouth. Do it 3 times. It just changed everything. It just
Yeah.
calms me down. I like,
Yeah.
wow, you just forget, sometimes you study and you get it, and then, other things take precedent and you forget. So, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm loving that we're exploring some of these tools today for both of us. This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
going to skip ahead a little bit. What has this work taught you about resilience?
Oh yeah. I think that I've really grown in seeing myself as capable, especially in that experience, with other people, wanting to harm you or hurt you. And there's so many different directions, that I could have went in that kind of case. But to see myself again and again say, that's not okay, and I know there's something better out there for me. I think that that has just felt just the most healing for me. Every time something in my life happens like that, I can usually look at myself and say, wow, like that was really, really badass. you
Yeah.
know. So, and even
Like
like the little wins, are good. So,
Yeah, it's sort of like stepping stones.
yeah,
Each time you've been challenged and you rise to the occasion and you move through it and you learn what you have to learn. It's sort of like you're just going up this spiral of becoming, and you become something else. And
yeah,
so really resilience is something that I treasure. You don't always like the experience you had to go through, but it does change you, and hopefully in a positive way. And that's part of the reason I'm doing this work and sharing these stories, because I want to share stories of resilience. People have
yeah,
gone through what we've gone through and changed their lives for other people, because I don't want them to know that. I want them to know they're not alone. The
Mhm.
past does not define your future. You can make it what you want. It's a choice. And we can choose to stay victims our whole lives or move through it, and I think that's an important message that people need to hear.
Yeah, I love that message. And I would say what even kind of came to mind from that is, a jumping off piece is, in art, when you're creating, like sometimes it'd be like, oh, I meant to do it this way, or I thought it would look a particular way. But so many times, if you just keep going, something comes out that's totally beautiful, or maybe totally not, and that's okay.
Right.
Like be able to be gentle with yourself. There's so many opportunities that have come, from different parts of my life where mistakes are not what I thought would happen. Something totally different happens. And just seeing the hope, hearing the hope and seeing the outcome of that has been great.
Yeah, I think so too. So, all right, what would you say to someone who feels hesitant? I'm not creative enough
Mm.
to try any art as healing. I'm not creative. What do you say to those people?
Yeah. I say, just give it a go. I say sometimes, you know, one thing I'm gonna it's kind of like forming this idea in my mind. I think creativity isn't just, pen and paper and watercolor. I think creativity can be through cooking. It can be through the way you dress, the way you decorate your home. Like even thinking a little out of the box with creativity can be actually a good first start, in finding your way.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. That there's so much more we are all creative in some way.
Yeah.
We allow ourselves to notice it and be okay with it. Whether it's the way you parent, the way you work with a coworker, you encourage people. That's creativity. And we need to change the definition from art, as the only creative form. So that's
Yeah.
my thought anyway.
Yeah. 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 We're on the same page there. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So if someone was listening today could and they need to take a small step toward healing or connection, what would you encourage them to do?
I would say, man, I like the attitude of family of choice and family, as I sometimes call it. So in that case, I mean, if the people in your life aren't feeling good to be around, or maybe you are feeling like you don't really have people, there are so many places and pockets of people to just get out there and find who your people are, and maybe like different pockets, there's art classes to go to. Maybe there's photography. Maybe if you're into nature, there's like, art meetups. Meetup is an app that I've used before to kind of find different people and just go there with curiosity. You don't have to go of like, oh, I'm going to find my best friend.
Right.
But just go with a little curiosity. And oftentimes the connection just kind of happens organically just by being, a friendly person. So,
I, for one, in the season of my life, a lot of people are gone, and it's creating new friendships. I'm 75 years young, but it's a new group of people. And, I have my besties, but it's the people I want to hang with on a daily basis and do things and have artist dates with. And, you have to, and it's challenging to put yourself out at any age, and say, okay, I'm going to do this, but I do, and for me, oftentimes it's like walking and I'll talk to strangers because I feel that everybody's got a story and you just never know who that person is going to be. And I met this woman. We were at a spiritual gathering and we started chatting, and I actually knew her sister and she had heard of me and my artwork. Who knew?
wow.
And so we've had lunch together several times, and she's into some of the same things I am, and so we've connected. You just don't know where that next person can be.
Yeah.
Another time this is a great story. I was at the beach and this woman had a pad of paper out. She was drawing. So I started chatting with her. And she was talking about this new deli in another community, and you got to go there and blah, blah, blah. Okay, my girlfriend comes in from out of town. We go and we can't find the deli. But I said, oh, there's this great little garden here. Let's go walk around the garden. Who's sitting there? That same woman. I hadn't
Oh,
seen her in 4 months. And I was like, oh my God, she was meant to be. And she told us exactly where to go. You know, you just
yeah.
know how people are going to come in and out of your life. And sometimes they can become your besties. Sometimes they're just there for a season, a moment. And I think if we adopt an attitude of compassion and kindness and openness, I think we can bring more people into our lives. So, and create that family. I have soul sisters. That's what I called them because there
Mhm.
was a time in my life I didn't have family, and stuff when I was growing up. I didn't have the parents who were there, the grandparents, or any of that. So it was sort of like, okay, who am I going to, and over the years, I created soul sisters. So we all find a way. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're getting toward the end of time. How can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can. I have a web page. It is Art Connections with an S, LLC.com. There you can see kind of my social media links. Or you could also email me at, we can put these in the show notes as well. But Art Connections LCC at gmail.com as well.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you. Jennifer,
Yeah.
thank you for the way you lead with compassion, courage, creativity, and a little curiosity. Your work
Mhm.
reminds us that healing doesn't have to be loud or complicated. Sometimes it begins with a single mark on a page and the courage to show up. To
Yeah.
our listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you, know that you're not alone. Healing happens in community, and creativity can be a powerful place to begin. So sign up to my Substack, Creative Activist, Turning Pain to Purpose. Find me on different, I have a website myself, raeluskin.com. You can learn more about Jennifer and her organizations, as she said. She's been a great guest, and I'm so honored to know you and have been friends with you for so long. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thanks for all the things that you do in the world too. It's so inspiring.
Thank you.